Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining my live stream. Welcome, welcome. Can you let me know if you can hear me okay? I check now every time because I've moved forward without checking, and it was quite embarrassing. It's good to see y'all. Thanks so much for joining the live stream. So today I wanted to get caught up on some of the things that happened last week when it was in the moment. I didn't want to recap every single day. I wanted to just do half of it and then this week do the other half. And I thought it would be fun to do so all at the same time. And by doing that, I was able to see just how much Prince Harry actually got done last week. He was busy. Mind you, today's live stream is only half of the things because we talked about the first half last week and it was still a lot of stuff. I was just like, goodness, how does he find the time? He has like 35 hours in one of his days. Hi, Karen M. Thank you so much for joining. It's good to see you. Hey, Mina Ruth. Thank you so much for joining. It's good to see you. And y'all can hear me okay, right? Let me make sure. Okay, there we go. Okay, so today I have three main segments. All of them are going to be centering Prince Harry and some of the things that he did in the UK as well as in Ukraine. And then, of course, we have to talk about some of thank you, Karen M, so you can hear me. Thank you. And of course, we have to talk about the Invictus updates. It does not seem like Invictus has been going on for 10 years. That is such a long time. And I remember in the anniversary, I said the same thing. But when I was reading the update from their most recent meeting and kind of their plot to move forward and how they plan to expand and all of that, and they still have so much to do, but it just seems like they've already done so much. It feels like they've kind of packed in like 25 years worth of stuff in a 10-year span. It's just like, goodness gracious. At the same time, I'm like, you've already hit 10 years, but then also, how did you get all that done in 10 years? It's just 10 years, but listen, congratulations to all of them. And it was really great to see them all in Ukraine. I was really pleased to hear not only how that trip went, but to see Prince Harry in Ukraine, knowing all of the advocacy work and just like the advocating he has done for not only Yulia, but Ukraine in general. I just thought that was beautiful. So it was really good to see that full circle moment. And then we're going to get into it more. I'm just kind of giving a little brief of like what's been on my mind about this. But hearing him talk about the expansion into Africa and how Nigeria is kind of opening a door of how other African countries can follow suit. I love everything about that. I love everything about that. Now, I will say this. I really hope, I'm going to be happy with whomever is next, but I really hope the next country to get on board with Invictus is Kenya, because I have been wanting to go to Giraffe Manor forever. I have been wanting to go to Kenya since, maybe about 10, 15 years now. And every time I get ready to plan a trip, we always end up having a reason to go somewhere else. Like we always end up having like an event somewhere else that we want to go to, or like a family member is going somewhere and we just kind of decide against it. But I really hope Kenya is on the list, because I need a real reason to go to Kenya and actually follow through, because I have got to get to that Giraffe Manor. I have to. And then at some point, I'm nervous, but at some point I do want to trace my roots and just like find out as much as I can about my genealogy. My sister did it. And I could just read hers, I guess, but I would like to do it for myself. You never know. I want to do my own. And then travel to all the places that I come from. But I would love to do that. And so hopefully Kenya's on that list. So I have another reason to go. But anyway, we're going to get into all of that. Thank y'all so much for joining. We're going to start segment 1. So get the conversation started in the live chat. I'm going to go ahead and put your comments on the screen. So go ahead and get the conversation going, and then we'll continue to dialogue on the other side. Fewer people are having a better month than Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex. And before we get into all of the amazing stories and information that we have in store for today's video, we have to start with this short but sweet article from The Cut that's aptly titled, "Everything's Coming Up, Prince Harry." This was written by Olivia Craighead. For the past week, Prince Harry has been on a run of good press like he hasn't seen since the Oprah interview. Last week, he spent 4 days in the UK where he paid his respects to the late Queen Elizabeth, appeared at multiple charity events, and reunited with his father for the first time in 19 months. Prince Harry then made his way to Ukraine, where he honored victims of the country's war with Russia and promoted the work of his Invictus Games Foundation, which supports veterans wounded in combat. In a glowing Guardian profile pegged to his Ukraine trip, Prince Harry seemed to be in good spirits about his relationship to his home country. I'd love to pause there. Prince Harry has always had the utmost respect and love and adoration for his home country. As a matter of fact, as he calls it, his mother country. He has said that several times. He's reiterated that every opportunity he has, his criticisms have always been relegated to the tabloid press and the behavior of his family. He's never even outright disparaged his family. He's never said anything negative about his family. He's simply told the truth. But at no point has he ever disparaged anyone or anything. He's simply spoken about his experience. Now, the negative things that have come out about those experiences were simply the behavior of the people he was discussing, which is why those things shouldn't have been happening in the first place. So for him to call those things out was to speak his truth. That isn't to disparage anyone. But also, this narrative that he does not like the UK or that he does not like Europe or whatever people have been perpetuating, it's a lot of different stories that come out of this. And it's simply because people have been deflecting from his point because he's always had a good point. He's always made a good point. He's always illustrated his feelings on the matter of how he and his wife and his children were treated very well. He's always been very direct. And at no point has he left anything up to misunderstanding, because at no point was there ever a miscommunication. The only misunderstandings have been intentional, and those have been by the people he was literally holding to account. And they only exacerbated the issue by further avoiding accountability. It's a toxic cycle that he himself didn't start, but he called it out so that it could be rectified. Now, at this point, Prince Harry has done all he ever can to fix the way he and his wife and his family were treated, because it wasn't his problem to fix, but he has done all he can. But at no point did he ever make his grievance with his family or his grievance with Ravek or his grievance with the tabloids a UK problem. He's always been very clear about the things that he's holding accountable, and he's always been very clear about his love of his mother country. While there are a couple of good pieces of intel in the interview, Prince Harry says his bony ass prevents him from riding a bike, he is apparently a folk hero in Ukraine. The juiciest bits happened when he circled back to the UK visit. We have to circle back to the bony ass comment. That immediately made me think of King of the Hill when his butt was so bony, he kept sliding out of his lawnmower. If you've seen that episode, please let me know in the comments. That is one of my favorite episodes of King of the Hill. Quote, "Parts of the British press want to believe that I am miserable, but I'm not." Even in that statement, parts of the British press, he is always very clear and intentional that he is not putting everyone under one blanket. And he's literally speaking about the specific things that are true to form, or true to the story that he's telling. He's not bashing the entire media. He's not bashing the entire press. He's very clear. There are some people who are getting it right, but there are some people who are getting it very wrong. And he has every right to call it out. But let's continue. Parts of the British press want to believe that I am miserable, but I am not. I am very happy with who I am, and I like the life that I live, Prince Harry said. I have certainly had to deal with some very stressful events over the last 4 years. There's been the uncertainty and stress of the litigation and finding out certain things that have really, really hurt. Oh, I hate to hear that. That being said, when asked if he would like to spend more time in the UK and maybe even bring his children, Prince Harry was optimistic. Quote, "Yes, I would," he told the paper. This week has definitely brought that closer. Prince Harry declined to speak much about King Charles, who was diagnosed with cancer in February of 2024, but noted that in the coming year, the focus really has to be on my dad. I'd also like to circle back. I sometimes feel like people watch Prince Harry talk, but don't listen to what he's saying, because he has maintained that he would love to bring his family back to the UK when it's safe. He has said that several times. He has been very clear about his love of his mother country. And he's also been very clear and spoken out several times that he would love for his kids to be able to spend more time there. That's never been up for question. But one thing he has maintained is it has to be safe. And I think the focus has shifted to his choice to live in the US. Woo woo, we got him and I'm hanging on to him. We do not want him to leave. We are very happy with him here. And so it's delighting me, and I'm sure everyone who's read this article, that he likes the life that he lives here in America, because America is the better for it. But besides that, I think people ignore what he says because, again, he has said several times that he would love for his children to have a relationship with his mother country and know where they're from and know where he's from, because it's it's what makes him him, and to know him is to know it, and vice versa. But he's always maintained that it has to be safe. Now, I think the focus should shift from Prince Harry not having his kids there and his family there. The focus should shift on the why. Why doesn't he live here anymore? Why doesn't Meghan live here anymore? Why doesn't Prince Archie live here anymore? And why didn't Princess Lilibet ever get a chance to live here? It's because people made it very unsafe. And so if you are frustrated by that fact, as I would be if I were a citizen of the UK, I would be like, shoot, I want Prince Harry to live here. I want Meghan to live here. I want the kids to live here. They're ours. They're part of our royal family. I want them representing our crown. I would want that too. I'm very happy that they're here in the US. I do feel like they represent the US whenever they are going abroad or anything like that, because they live here. I do see them as a representative of the US, and we're the better for it. So I can imagine that being in the UK, it feels like something's been stolen, because technically something has. But I wouldn't see it as something's been stolen. I see it as something has been lost, because the people who are still acting as your senior working royals did everything they could to push them out. And so I do think the frustration is warranted, but I do think it's misguided and unfairly placed on Prince Harry, Meghan, and the children. Well, hopefully y'all not blaming the babies too, but y'all shouldn't be blaming Harry and Meghan either. I think the focus should be on the why. Why is Ravek continuing to put Harry and his family's safety in jeopardy? Why is the royal family complicit in that? And why are the tabloid press still abusing them? These are the things that need to be called out. And there are ways that you can inflict change. There are ways that you can see to it as citizens or subjects that Harry, Meghan, and the children do get to come back. You can write letters. You can literally protest the decision of them to decide his security on a case-by-case basis. You can protest. You can make your voices heard. You can donate to Republic, but they're kind of all or nothing. If you don't see Republic's view, I fully understand. If you love having a monarchy, that's okay. But I do think there's a way that you guys could have Prince Harry and his family there a lot more, and that is by protesting the fact that his security is in jeopardy every time he comes. And I don't blame him for not putting his family's safety in jeopardy either. And I'm sure that's hard. I mean, I enjoy going back to my hometown and seeing the sights and seeing the people and spending time with family. I love that. It recharges me. But one thing I would never do is put my children in harm's way. So if me going back to experience nostalgia meant possibly losing one of my kids or causing harm to them, I absolutely wouldn't do it either. So I think the agitation or the anger about Prince Harry not being there more is warranted. I think you should focus that on the people who made that so and are continuing to make that so. There are things you can absolutely do. Also, as far as the tabloid press, if you want to see less of it, don't click on things that disparage Harry, Meghan, and the children. Don't click on it. Don't give them the engagement. Don't buy the papers. Don't buy the magazine. Anything that has a negative front cover or headline or anything like that. By buying it, by contributing to it, by clicking on it, you are giving it engagement. You are telling whoever created that, we want to see more of this. And more importantly, you're telling their advertisers who keep them in business, we want to see more of this. I understand how easy it can be to say, okay, now what are they talking about today? And even if you're not reading it because you like it, but you're reading it because you want to hear the rest of the story, like, where did they get this from? I get the curiosity, but there is a better way to do it. If you want to know what's going on, I recommend just looking at social media. There is always going to be someone who recapped whatever's in an article. You don't have to read it if you want to just know. But me personally, I don't want to partake in anything that is not true. I don't want to partake in anything that isn't valid. And so, in my opinion, if you are frustrated about Harry, Meghan, and the children not being in the UK, there is a way that you can go about starting to loosen some of those really hard knots that are keeping them bound. And I think the tabloid press is one of them. Ravek is one of them. And of course, the royal family. Don't show up to their events. When the royal family has an engagement, don't go. Not until Harry, Meghan, and the children are back. Or at least able to travel here safely. So anyway, there are things that everyone can do. There's something within your control in all ways. And so inflicting that to make your point known and make your stance known will have a huge impact. Let's continue. Prince Harry also addressed his bombshell memoir, Spare, which detailed much of the familial tension that arose when Prince Harry decided to marry Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Quote, speaking out annoys some people and it goes against the narrative. The book, it was a series of corrections to stories already out there. One point of view had been put out and it needed to be corrected. Prince Harry said, adding, quote, I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in public. It was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible. My conscience is clear. People struggle with accountability. No matter how you put it, people struggle with accountability. I have told people directly that they have harmed me. It has been very obvious. I have listed out the grievances and the impact and all that stuff, and they've still been able to tell me you're just being sensitive. And then I've also spoken to people and handled that same person with kid gloves, and I tried to explain it to them in a different way, and I tried to use examples, and I used a non-threatening, non-direct tone, and I tried to just get them to understand from a place where they wouldn't feel attacked, and they still got mad. Some people are determined to stay stuck in the persona that they're in. Some people refuse to see themselves for who they are, because to do that would mean that they're flawed, and some people cannot admit that they are flawed. And a person who cannot admit that they are flawed is very immature and possibly even dangerous, because we're all flawed. So if you cannot look at yourself and say, hey, whether it was my intent to hurt this person or not is not the issue. The impact is the issue, and I must make amends, because at the end of the day, aren't you a person who doesn't want to hurt your family? That's always what I come back to. When family has problems and there's one who's kind of digging their heels in because they don't want to believe that they hurt someone, that's the one thing I don't understand, because I'm sure I've hurt people that I love. And if they were to come to me and say, hey, when you cut me off in conversation, it hurt my feelings, it made me feel dismissed. Now, I might say, no, I just got excited about telling you something. I'm sorry. Obviously, I would never hurt you on purpose. But if my family tells me I hurt them or upset them, my focus is on, dang, that's the last thing I want to do. That's where I start from. My intent is never to hurt you. My goal is to always make you feel happy and safe and contribute to that. So when I've done the opposite, I want to address that immediately. So I welcome the feedback. I welcome that information so that I can fix it. I read digging your heels in and being stubborn and choosing not to acknowledge harm done as your way of saying, I don't care about your experience and it's none of my problem. I'm going to be who I am and you can deal with it or don't. And to me, to have that attitude towards a family member is to basically write your check to being no contact. Why would I want to be around someone who doesn't care about my safety and well-being? Because at the end of the day, an apology is free and changing behavior does take a little effort. But again, that's free as well. So why not? Why not make your family feel safe around you? Anyway, you can kind of tell that he's feeling himself, right? No, I don't. Let me read that again. Did I read that right? You can kind of tell that he's feeling himself, right? I don't really get that. Is it just me? Maybe we're going to get to the whole article so that I can get a good idea. Maybe I'll circle back and change my mind on this, but this is just how Harry has always sounded. Harry has been sounding for years, happy and content and comfortable and at peace. He sounds like Harry to me. It doesn't sound like he's feeling himself or cocky or confident. He just sounds like Prince Harry shooting the shit. Like, again, I think when people listen to Prince Harry or Meghan, they do the same thing to her. I feel like what they do is they just draw their own assumptions and then they listen to the things that confirm what they've already assumed. They are searching for confirmation bias, and anything that say that differs from that, they just ignore. Because Prince Harry hasn't been miserable. Prince Harry hasn't been upset. Prince Harry hasn't been angry. Prince Harry hasn't been all these things. He's been pretty content, even when he's been speaking about things that are hurtful in the several interviews he did last year, when he talked about the tabloids on fire and he talked about the situation with his brother. Like, all of these conversations, he's been pretty serious, but at no point has he looked miserable. At no point has he looked any of those things. He's always looked pretty confident. He's looked pretty happy. He's looked content. He's just been like, this is time for business and then this is time for fun. I don't think he's feeling himself. I think people are just now getting to the point where they're letting him in. maybe because he saw his dad, a lot of people are just kind of laying down their arms. I don't know, but it just feels like people are finally accepting what they see and what they hear as opposed to projecting onto him. So maybe that's what they're feeling. But this isn't a Harry thing. This is a projection problem from the source. Anyway. This is the vibe of a guy who is riding high off of a well-received British charity tour, a long-awaited reunion with his dad, and a trip to a country where he seems to be universally loved. As if things couldn't get any better for Prince Harry, today is his 41st birthday. This was published yesterday. And his wife, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, posted a hot photo of him to celebrate. What more could a guy ask for? Okay, so he does sound like he's happy, but he's been sounding like that. I hope he enjoyed his birthday. And yeah, we're going to talk about that photo, because that was a nice photo of Prince Harry. I've seen that photo before. And so when I saw it pop up, I wasn't aware that Meghan had posted it. I just thought, I follow a lot of squatties on social media. So I just thought people were celebrating his birthday. And when I saw that she posted it, I said, oh, okay. And then I saw that caption. I said, okay, who wouldn't? When you like your husband, you want to show him off to the world. Now listen, Meghan, there are millions of women who love and respect you and your husband. And it makes us feel bad. Listen, how I slid myself on in there. It makes us feel bad when we openly fawn over your husband, girl, because we're trying to respect you. I don't want to fawn over your husband. I'm not trying to upset Miss Meghan. But you keep posting photos like that. And I'm going to have to say, okay, Meghan, I owe you one, because I'm going to look at this photo and I'm going to just a little bit. No, they are a beautiful couple, and I love how they openly adore each other. Anyway, that was a really great article, short and sweet. It makes me excited for the Guardian article that we're going to dig into. But let me know your thoughts on this intro in the comments or the live stream below. Okay, so that was a good introductory article. Be helpful if I just said the words and not just part of them. But that was a good introductory article. I still listen, the cut, I'm on edge with the cut, because I remember when they did that interview with Meghan, and I read the interview, like the actual questions and answers, and I enjoyed it. But then the authors or the writers' commentary about the interview was so snarky. And I didn't even pick up on it at first until someone reached out to me and was like, Sharion, did you read all of the commentary from the reporter who interviewed Meghan after the fact? And so I went and read it, and I was like, were you trying to be shady? So again, the cut is one of those articles where I kind of hold my breath when I read anything that they write about the Sussexes, because you just don't know. You just never know. They always try to sneak in their little digs. I really want to know what they get out of that. I don't get that, especially someone who's granted you an interview. I can't imagine being shady to someone who was kind enough, especially someone as busy and as sought after as Meghan, who was kind enough to give me the time of day and invite me into their home and send me away with a basket of goodies, and then be like, she's pompous. Like, that was kind of the energy of her commentary. And I was just like, see, this is why when celebrities do the Beyonce and don't talk to them at all, don't talk to reporters at all, she won't even say hello. That's why, because people just cannot leave well enough alone. Like, she already let you in her home, girl. You could say thank you, but that's just me being sensitive. Hi, Corlita Simon. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Corlita Simon says, they twist Prince Harry's words to suit their narrative. They do. They absolutely do. It's like they intend to. Now, I can understand, like, sometimes I will talk and I will be entertaining two thoughts at once. And when I speak, it might come off confusing. So I've had to clarify things that I've meant and clarify statements that I've made all the time. I mean, it happens. And people's comprehension and perception is important. It's not always going to be exactly mine. So they might miss what I'm saying. I get that. But when it comes to Harry, it just feels like people, like, as soon as they see that he said something, they grab a pen and they're like, okay, he said this, let's twist it into this. Let's cut it in half and make it mean this. Like, it's like they're hell bent on twisting what he says. At this point, I didn't understand it way back then. But even now, 5 years later, why on earth are y'all still bothering him? Why on earth are you still misunderstanding what he said? I saw someone's thumbnail. I didn't click on the video, but I saw someone's thumbnail pop up when I was searching for images. And their thumbnail said Meghan's show, and I'm assuming they mean With Love. Meghan's show is, what did they say? Arrogant. And when I read that, I was like, this is why I don't entertain every thought, because people are at different stages of life and people have different levels of comprehension and cognitive abilities. And I'm just going to say that's too far below what I can comprehend. I'm going to let them have that because that didn't make any sense to me. But they do the same thing to Harry. No matter what Harry says, Harry could be coughing and they would be like, he screamed at Meghan. Like, it's like, y'all really want these people to be unhappy. It's sad. But watch, even though in the Guardian article, which we'll get to, he outright said, I am happy with my life. And people still will find something wrong with that. They'll be like, he was secretly coding a message to William. They really go above and beyond to be obtuse and ignorant. And again, I've actually gotten to the point where I'm just like, I don't think they realize that that's actually more representative of them, not Harry. Because if we can read the same statement and you can come up with a whole story, that's on you. Not too long ago, I made the statement on Threads. I said, I've gotten to the point where Jordan Peele movies relax my psyche. I don't know what it is about his production quality that just make me relax when I watch them. Even though his movies are pretty spooky, I'm still like, I get relaxed when I watch them. And someone was like, he only has a couple of movies. And I was like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? And he said, you made it seem like he had a bunch of movies. And I said, I said they impacted my psyche in a good way. And he goes, well, you imply he had a ton of movies. I said, good luck with that. God bless. If that's what you saw and it was written down, then God bless. So listen, it happens to people like me. Like, now what do you get out of bothering me? I only have like 7 followers on Threads. What do you even get out of that? But you know what? People can only understand at their level of comprehension. And when you think of it in those terms, people can only understand as much as they can handle. You no longer get offended. At times, you might even feel bad for them. Like, oh, okay. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100. You're still stuck at start. Well, the rest of us going to keep moving on and proceeding. Next comment. Hi, R.R. Carter. R.R. Carter says, I'm glad that the Sussexes are not living in the UK. Without a high-level security, they are not safe in the UK. Absolutely. I hope you were able to hear my whole segment, because at no point did I say that I wanted them to live in the UK. At no point have I ever said that. As a matter of fact, in that segment, I said, if you're upset about Harry and Meghan not being in the UK more, then be upset with Ravek for not making it safe for them to do so. Be upset with the powers that be for pushing them out of the royal family, because if I were in the UK, I would absolutely be pissed that Prince Harry doesn't represent my monarchy anymore. He, in my opinion, he represents America when he goes anywhere, because listen, we're going to hang on to him. Okay. But as a matter of fact, I said, if I were in the UK, I would be pissed about it and I would be protesting. I would not show up to engagements for the other royals until they did enough for Harry and Meghan to come back and visit. But I don't want them living there. So at no point did I say that. I hope we have an understanding, because I definitely didn't say that. I said, I hope that the people who are upset don't conflate Harry not living there with him not loving where he's from. He loves where he's from, and he's always made that very clear. He made that clear in his interviews in the run up to Spare. But it is a shame how he has been treated, and it is a shame that he's not safe there. Now, that he has said several times, but that doesn't mean I want them to live there. Absolutely not. Hi, moving in silent. Not you with a cheeseburger for your picture. I understand. Why was the British monarchy upset about Meghan's birthday post of her own husband? Because they're unhappy. They're miserable. La misère. They don't want anyone to be happy. Now, the photo, people are calling it steamy. It just happens to be a really good photo. But Prince Harry is in his aviation uniform. It's not like the man was shirtless with a nipple ring and a tassel. Like, the man was just in his uniform and his hair was blowing up. I'm assuming because of the propellers, his hair was blowing up really high. And he had this real Top Gun facial expression. I said, Meghan, I respect you, so I'm not going to gawk at your man. I'm not going to gawk at him, but I am going to look at him for just 3 or 4 seconds extra than I usually do, because that was a good photo. But it wasn't inappropriate. It just happened to be hot. Now, anybody who's making any kind of claim must have found it hot as well. They must have been attracted to the photo, and they're just trying to project. Anyway, Meghan could breathe, and they would be like, she took up a lot of oxygen with that breath. They're gonna find something. We let them have that. That's all they can do. I didn't even realize the British monarchy were upset about that photo, but they also didn't wish Prince. Well, at this point, if they have by now, y'all let me know. But the last I checked, which was this morning, I hadn't seen any birthday wishes to him from them at all. So they can't say too much about it. Hi, Mina Ruth 2093. Mina Ruth says the British media and the derangers are going to be mad about anything the Sussexes do or does. Yeah. They've made it their whole personality. Like they've taken it from beyond just making it a habit. It's no longer habitual at this point. That's who they are. That is who they are. And anybody who have so little that they can make someone else's life their whole personality, but more importantly, someone else's detriment their whole personality, that's a scary person. I always wonder, who are these people when they walk among us? Does that ever cross y'all's mind? Like the people who say those awful things, who are y'all? Like it's kind of scary because I hate when I'm standing next to a hater. I hate when I find out like, oh, I thought we were going to be something great and you're a hater. No, that's disappointing. Like I told y'all about the time I was in the mail room and I can't remember what she got out of her mailbox, but this woman next to me was like just starting up conversation. And she pulled something out of her mailbox that had a reference to Harry and Meghan in the corner. It was like a magazine. And she was like, oh, I just can't stand them. Now there were a lot of people on the magazine, but somehow I knew because that's how they roll. And I was like, oh, who is that? And she was like, that Harry and Meghan, I just can't stand them. I said, oh, what did they ever do to you? And she was like, well, they didn't do anything to me. Like she got real defensive. She was like, they didn't do anything to me. It's just how they carry themselves. I was like, oh, how so? And she was like, well, don't get upset. I said, oh, I don't need my emotions managed. How do they carry themselves? And she was like, well, I just, she just seems so haughty. I was like, oh, yeah, that's a real racist trope. I said, I've noticed that when people brand Black women haughty, it's simply because they have self-respect. I said, I too have had that experience. It's a shame. Hopefully you can evolve beyond that. Have a great day. And I just walked off and she was still trying to explain. Now, usually I'm not that short with people, but usually I'll dialogue a little more and be like, well, these are all the things that they've done, blah, blah. Something tells me that lady has more than enough access to find out all of that on her own. I don't need to direct her to find out anything about Harry and Meghan. I need to put her ass in her place and push it. But at the end of the day, I was like, you don't even know me. But what you probably can observe is that I am Black and you still did that. Like, I think they try to check the temperature. They test the waters to see how far they can go. I don't know. And for whoever might be out there agreeing with that stuff, you make it harder on the rest of us. Make them uncomfortable again. Make those people who make those kinds of off-color comments uncomfortable again. There are a number of people I dislike. At no point do I ever feel compelled to tap a stranger and be like, you want to hear my feelings on Trump? Like, no. You can probably tell by my edges that I'm Black and that I probably don't like his racist ass. So you can assume, but I don't feel the need to promote my dislike of anybody, but especially people who are out here helping. Imagine doing all the things that Harry and Meghan have done to improve the world. And they've only been a couple for a short amount of time. And both of them are hella young. They've only been on the earth for about 41 and 44 years. They haven't been here that long. And they've made so much impact individually and together. And you still find a reason to dislike them. That just tells me something's missing in you. That's not a Harry and Meghan problem. That's a you. You have a void. Hi, R. Carter. R. Carter says, just making a comment how I feel about the safety for the Sussexes. A bit late to the podcast. You always do a fantastic job. Thank you so much. Yeah, their safety is paramount. And I'm a little surprised to find out that there are people still blaming Harry, or not blaming, but upset with Harry that he moved. And they're somehow conflating him living in the U.S. with him disliking his mother country. I kind of put those people in the boat of they're looking for a reason to be upset. Because at no point has Harry ever said anything disparaging about the UK in any way. He actually always compliments it. He's always holding up the Union Jack. He's always referencing it. When I was pulling segments for Spare, when he was talking about Todger Tales, and he went to the North Pole, he talked about going up there and proudly holding the Union Jack while he was there. And I just thought, you can take him out of the country, but you can't take that out of him. That man loves his country. He would have to. He went to war to protect it twice. He would have to. Anybody questioning his love and services, they were going to question him anyway. Hi, Colette McCullough. Welcome. I'm late. Fill me in. Okay, we're going to get you filled in. So we're going to move on to the second segment. Y'all continue the conversation on the other side, and we will continue the dialogue when we return. Thing everywhere, all at once. Every time I looked up, Prince Harry was somewhere different, doing something different with a grin on his face. This trip looked like one for the books, and he did so much good. From huge donations to time spent to actually getting to work, making speeches, shaking hands, kissing babies, you name it, he probably did it. And all of it without any sweat on his brow. If I had to do all of the things that he did in a year that he squeezed into a week, I would be exhausted. I would have to solicit 2 or 3 clones just to get through the week. But you know what? When you're driven and when you're focused, you are determined. So it was great to see Prince Harry all over the place doing all of the things, and we have to get into them. Compliments of Sussex.com. The first update we'll be sharing is titled Invictus, the Next Chapter. The Invictus Games Foundation Horizons event brought together supporters, partners, and champions of the wounded warrior community to celebrate a decade of achievements while setting an ambitious course for the future. The evening highlighted how Invictus has evolved from a sporting event into a global movement that changes lives, perceptions, and entire systems of support for service personnel. 10 years since its inception, the Invictus Games Foundation has achieved milestones that seemed impossible at the outset. What began with 13 countries and over 400 competitors at the inaugural London 2014 Games has grown into a truly global community. 23 nations participated in the most recent Vancouver Whistler 2025 Games with 534 competitors, representing wounded, injured, and sick service personnel from every inhabited continent. The movement now encompasses innovative developments like Vancouver Whistler's pioneering hybrid Winter Games and Germany's first ever Veterans Day. Perhaps most impressively, Nigeria became the first African country in history to join the Invictus Games Foundation when they debuted at Dusseldorf 2023. Its national program has flourished in just 3 years, complete with an Armed Forces Invictus Center being built in Abuja, opening the door for continental expansion across Africa. These achievements demonstrate Invictus's unique ability to serve as a catalyst for change. While the Games provide the initial spark, it's the leadership of local communities and the determination of service personnel themselves that sustain and expand the impact. The recent visit to Ukraine has underscored the vital importance of Invictus's mission right now, as the scale of need is staggering and unprecedented. Ukraine is facing upward of 20,000 military amputees, with German officials estimating between 30,000 and 50,000 Ukrainian amputees overall as a result of the conflict. An estimated 300 new amputees are created every day, and by the end of this year, there could be some 50,000 Ukrainians in need of prosthetics. Europe has experienced nothing like it since World War I, and the United States not since the Civil War. This underscores that new cohorts of wounded, injured, and sick service personnel are in need of exactly the kind of support and recovery pathways that the Invictus model provides in addressing trauma and facilitating recovery. The Horizons event emphasized that Invictus represents something far more significant than sporting achievement. In a world where conflict continues to rage and divisions seem to deepen, the Invictus community stands as a powerful counter-narrative. The movement proves that unity is not just possible but formidable, demonstrating that bonds of courage, respect, and humanity transcend political differences, backgrounds, and nationalities. The event featured a powerful discussion facilitated by the Duke with 2 key members of the Invictus movement who had recently visited Ukraine together. As their friend of a decade and the one who took them to Ukraine, Josh Bogie and David Wiseman each witnessed firsthand the profound impact of seeing the urgent need there, then shared their personal recovery journeys and reflected on how Invictus has shaped their lives. Josh's story is one of extraordinary resilience. He has nearly died 3 times during his recovery journey, which began after an IED explosion during his 3rd tour in Afghanistan. He spoke about how sport played a crucial role not just in his physical rehabilitation, but in giving him purpose and hope during the darkest moments when survival itself was uncertain. His transformation from a critically wounded soldier to an inspiring advocate demonstrates the life-changing power of the Invictus approach. David, who continues to carry the bullet in his chest that ended his military career, has dedicated his life to the recovery and rehabilitation of fellow service members. His reflection on our recent Ukraine visit and his ongoing commitment to supporting others exemplifies the spirit that drives the Invictus movement forward. Seeing him connect with Ukrainian veterans, sharing experiences across language barriers through the universal language of recovery was deeply moving. The evening outlined a clear strategic direction for Invictus's continued expansion. The focus will be on reaching areas where need is greatest while strengthening the international community already established. The goal extends beyond individual recovery to driving systemic change, ensuring that wounded, injured, and sick service personnel everywhere can access recovery through sport, rehabilitation, and community support. Particularly exciting is the potential for expansion across Africa. Following presentations at the African Union, chiefs of defense from across the continent have been encouraged to follow Nigeria's example and join the movement. The vision includes Invictus communities spanning the entire African continent and beyond. That is amazing. The Horizons event served as both celebration and rallying cry. As conflicts continue worldwide and the need for support grows, Invictus stands ready to expand its impact. While acknowledging the remarkable achievements of the first decade, from 13 nations in 2014 to a record-setting 23 nations in 2025, the growing global need requires an expanded response. The numbers from Ukraine also demonstrate this urgency. This is just the beginning of what the Invictus movement can accomplish when communities, nations, and individuals unite behind wounded warriors seeking recovery and purpose. Recognizing the bonds between Josh, David, the Ukrainian veterans, and across the entire global Invictus family, the Duke stated, quote, "Invictus is not just about the games. It is about showing the best of humanity, about proving that there is no wound, physical or invisible, that cannot be met with strength, with dignity, and with hope." The next update is titled Diana Award, Youth Wellbeing. 1 year after launching their groundbreaking Decade of Youth Wellbeing initiative, the Diana Award brought together an intimate gathering of young leaders, philanthropists, and changemakers in London for a powerful discussion on how social activism is transforming mental health outcomes for an entire generation. The Diana Award, founded in memory of Diana, Princess of Wales, and supported by both of her sons, Prince Harry and the other one, has made youth empowerment central to its mission through programs including mentoring for at-risk youth, anti-bullying campaigns, and collaborative initiatives that reimagine mental health support for young people from racialized communities. The ServiceNow hosted event featured around 40 participants who heard directly from 3 inspiring 23-year-old activists, Lottie Leach, Elsa Arnold, and Indorin Hope Akpan. These young leaders, who have collaborated with the Diana Award on projects addressing inequality and mental health challenges, shared candid insights about how their activism has strengthened their personal resilience, sense of purpose, and hope for the future. The discussion was chaired by Legacy Award holder Dan Laws, a prominent children's rights campaigner, highlighting the Diana Award's commitment to youth-led dialogue and solutions. Following the panel discussion, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, offered his reflections on the conversation. Quote, "Getting involved in peaceful social action takes courage and determination. Young people see the issues society faces close up, whether that's poor mental health or the consequences of inequalities. But you don't stand still. Your empathy and compassion drive you to make change. When you spoke about how taking action gave you purpose, confidence, and joy, it was more powerful than any statistic. It reminded me that agency is not a luxury for young people, it is a lifeline. My mother believed in the power and agency of young people to positively impact the world. The Diana Award continues her legacy by putting young people at the heart of everything they do. Today is a perfect example of that." Well said, Prince Harry. Dr. Tessie Ojo, CBE, CEO of the Diana Award, emphasized the urgency behind the organization's decade-long focus on mental health. Quote, "1 in 5 young people is living with a diagnosable mental health condition, and 4 in 10 feel powerless about their future. The crisis is real. When young people are trusted to lead and take action, their well-being rises, their resilience grows, and hope is restored. Put simply, action heals minds." Absolutely. I really admire Dr. Tessie Ojo. I follow her on social media, and she's always posting these really insightful quotes, and she keeps up, like she shares social media, and she helps the social media people keep up with her goings on, and she is always somewhere doing something, working towards something. She is so inspiring, and she shares a lot of wisdom. I highly recommend following her. ServiceNow's involvement in the initiative reflects a broader understanding of how solving complex social problems requires both technological innovation and human leadership. Paul Phipps, president of Global Customer Operations at ServiceNow, explained their commitment. Quote, "At ServiceNow, we believe that solving the world's toughest problems takes more than technology. It takes people. That's why our partnership with the Diana Award is so meaningful. It's how we turn belief into action by helping the next generation lead, innovate, and shape the future we all want to see." The Decade of Youth Wellbeing, which launched in September 2024 at the Concordia Annual Summit in New York with Prince Harry's participation, represents a global movement that positions young people as central figures in addressing the mental health crisis. Over the next 10 years, this initiative aims to provide young activists with platforms and tools to drive conversations and promote well-being worldwide. The London event exemplified the initiative's core principle that when young people are empowered to take action on issues they care about, they don't just change their communities, they transform their own mental health and well-being in the process.
The last update is titled, "A Mission of Hope to Ukraine." The Duke of Sussex visited Kiev at the invitation of Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko and Olga Rudneva, CEO of the Superhumans Center, leading a delegation from the Invictus Games Foundation in his capacity as founder and patron of the Invictus Games. It offered first-hand insight into the work of superhumans, experts in recovery and rehabilitation who support more than 150,000 seriously wounded Ukrainian servicemen and women. The scale of need is staggering, reflecting the immense human cost of the ongoing conflict and the critical importance of specialized rehabilitation services. The Duke participated in a panel discussion at the National Museum of the History of Ukraine in the Second World War, joining Captain Alexei Tunin from the Invictus Games Team Ukraine, David Wiseman, Chief Programs and Strategy Officer of the Invictus Games Foundation, and Olga Rudneva and Andriy Stavnitsa from the Superhumans Center. During the panel, the Duke offered a tribute that extended beyond the battlefield. He honored the wives and mothers who keep their loved ones on the straight and narrow. They deserve as much respect as anyone who serves. This recognition underscored that the impact of military service reaches far beyond individual soldiers to encompass entire families and support networks. When asked about advice for those transitioning out of military service who might miss its camaraderie, the Duke's response carried the weight of personal insight. "You will feel lost at times, like you lack purpose, but however dark those days are, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just need to look for it, because there will always be someone, a mother, father, sibling, friend, or comrade, there to pick you up." His guidance was direct and actionable. Don't stay silent. Silence will hold you in the dark. Open up to your friends and family, because in doing so you give them permission to do the same. The Duke met privately with Ukraine's Minister for Veterans Affairs, Natalia Kalmykova, to discuss concrete ways the Invictus Games Foundation and the broader international community can enhance support for wounded, injured, and sick serving personnel and veterans returning home with life-changing injuries. With an estimated 1.5 million veterans, Ukraine's rehabilitation needs rank among the greatest globally. The Invictus Games Foundation has committed to making Ukraine a key focus area in the years ahead, recognizing the scope of the challenge and the opportunity for meaningful impact. The Duke was hosted at a fundraising lunch specifically aimed at helping the Superhumans Center build up to 5 new recovery and rehabilitation centers. These facilities represent more than infrastructure. They are pathways to rebuilding lives disrupted by conflict. In a separate private meeting with Prime Minister Sviridenko, the Duke reiterated his personal commitment to the entire Invictus community, demonstrating that this engagement extends well beyond a single visit. The visit concluded at Maidan Square, where the Duke laid a wreath to honor the heroes of Ukraine who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in service of freedom and democracy. This served as a powerful reminder of the broader context within which rehabilitation and recovery efforts take place. The Duke's visit to Ukraine embodied the core philosophy of the Invictus Games, that the human spirit cannot be defeated, that recovery is possible even in the face of devastating injury. For Ukraine's wounded warriors and their families, his message was clear. You are not forgotten, your journey matters, and the international community stands ready to support your path to recovery. As Ukraine continues to navigate unprecedented challenges, this visit highlighted how healing encompasses not just medical treatment, but community support, international solidarity, and the unwavering belief that every veteran's recovery journey deserves comprehensive support and recognition.
So Harry was everywhere doing all the things. I was like, my goodness. Every time I checked Sussex.com, there was another update. It's great to see him out and about. And it was very clear that he enjoyed that trip. He was obviously having the time of his life. All of those meet and greets, he looked like he was just having so much fun. And I saw your comment, moving in silence. I laughed when he slapped five with the young lady. Harry is doing it for the culture. That cracked me up. I was like, look at him having the time of his life. It's good to see him just out and about and doing all those things. And I'm glad he was able to like do them all in that one trip so that he wasn't going back and forth, because I can imagine that's difficult trying to work with all of those organizations all in the UK or in Ukraine and live here in the US. So it's good to hear. It's good to see him being able to take that and make that balance. That's awesome. I'll be glad when he's able to do some engagements with Meghan, because y'all know Meghan always pulls out some cute fits. So I almost feel like in the back of my mind, I'm always hoping she does an engagement or something like that, just so I can see what she's wearing. I feel like I'm like, okay, Meghan, I want to put you to work just so I can see what you're gonna put on. She don't have time for that. Hi, Sanders Chin, loving your hair color. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm still getting used to it, but I have been enjoying it as well. I really did. It was between this and red, because I used to have really red hair and I had fun as a ginger. Let me tell you, I think it looked cute on my skin, but I wanted to try something different. So I've been having a good time with it. Thank you so much. Hi, Colette McCullough. Colette McCullough says, I bet William's blood was boiling. When is that hot pot not boiling? That man stays boiling. He stays angry. And somebody pointed out to me when Prince Harry shared his agenda with the royal family so that there weren't any scheduling conflicts, that all of a sudden William and Kate had all these engagements that they had to get to. The two of them ain't worked all year, and they've actually been on 5 vacations. We've been keeping track over there on Patreon and talking about them. We've been talking our mess, but they've been on 5 vacations this year alone, and all of a sudden they just had to get all the work done. They had to do everything. How pathetic. It's one thing to be inspired by your sibling. As a matter of fact, if William wasn't so jealous and he leaned into that, it would actually be a nice story of like, my brother is a really hard worker and I'm inspired by him. Like, that would be a good thing. But instead, he chose to be one of those people that competes. How embarrassing. And I'm averse to loss. I do not like to do anything that makes me look bad. I'm fine with being a beginner, but I don't like to do anything knowing that I'm going to lose at it. I try to avoid being a loser as much as I can. The fact that William intentionally competes with Harry and he has yet to pull out a win is, you know what? I'll give him props for determination. But you can't give him props for winning, because every time he does anything to try to compete or show up Harry, it only shows his own ineptitude. It's kind of embarrassing at this point. If I had any care for him, which I don't, but if I had any care for him, I might even feel bad. I would be like, I would hate to lose all the time to the same person. All the time. That might be a clue from the universe that you should stop competing and start trying to collaborate and actually be a good brother. Actually, as far as William, I don't understand how anybody respects him. No offense to the man, all offense to him. He put his finger in Meghan's face, all offense. But how anybody can look at William and actually feel any kind of respect towards him after all the things we've heard, but also just how he behaves. It's really hard to respect someone in a leadership position when they're super petty. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And now that all of his mess is out there, he should be playing nice as much as possible. The fact that he's essentially doubling down on the nonsense and the pettiness, I don't know what he thinks he's going to get out of that, but it's certainly not going to turn out in his favor. They are so petty. Oh, somebody asked me to talk about Kate's hair, and I will. I saw her blonde hair, but she's no longer blonde anymore. Now, when I saw that, I had just gotten my hair colored, and I was like, am I gonna go get my hair changed? Because I don't want to be matching this lady. But she changed it back. But apparently there was some reason for that. Now, I assumed maybe she was, because she allegedly is sick, that maybe that was why. But that still doesn't mean they had to give her a bad piece. It seemed like somebody really set her up for failure. They gave her a really bad hair piece. I'm glad that she stopped wearing it. But when I saw the back of that hair, I was like, I'm almost glad I didn't see it in real time and talk about it, because I might not have been able to say something as polite, but someone on her team does not like her very much. That's all I'll say about because I was a little surprised. You know it's bad when people who don't even keep up with the royals are talking about how bad the hairpiece was. As a matter of fact, the second time I saw the hairpiece, or was it a wig? I don't want to call it. Was it extensions? I'm not sure. Anyway, the second time I saw it was from Dominique Morgan. She's this activist and this social commentator, and she's author, and I think she's a musician. She's just all these amazing things, and I absolutely love her. I follow her on everything. She's such a wise woman. But she saw the wig and was like, Kate, somebody on your team hates you. And I was like, you know, it's bad when a social activist, or just an activist in general, takes a moment from their activism to be like, this is a particularly bad piece. I was like, goodness gracious, girl. I'm glad that she got rid of it. That was probably for the best. Hi, Emma D. It's good to see you. All right, we have one more segment, and it's probably my favorite segment. We have to talk about Prince Harry's interview in The Guardian. When I saw that he did an interview in The Guardian, I didn't believe it at first. I was like, here's some more of their cockamamie nonsense, because y'all know I broke up with The Guardian a couple of years ago. And I talked about it a little bit in the segment, why I stopped listening or reading them. And I might venture back here and there now. But they had made a little bad blood with me a couple of times because their opinion pieces started to turn into like the Inquirer. It looked like the Inquirer, the tabloids. It looked a little bit shady. I was like, this is below brow for the Guardian. They must really need money. But anyway, when I saw that Prince Harry granted them an interview, I was actually surprised. But when I read it, I was very happy with that interview. I really enjoyed it. And the interviewer asked good questions. I appreciate that because Prince Harry knows that people are going to ask about his family. It's not going to not happen. He's going to get asked about it. I appreciate that he still answers the questions and he's not rude to them, because I think by now, if people were still asking me about something that's kind of over, I would be like, do y'all have anything else to talk to me about? But I think Prince Harry, because he's so intelligent, he knows that if I talk about a little bit of this, if I give them a little bit of something, that means they're going to read the rest of the article. And the stuff that I really want them to know about in Ukraine is going to get, more publicity. So that's the purpose. But his answers were actually very nice, very in-depth. I really appreciated how in-depth he went in what's going on in Ukraine. And then also, I also appreciated that he didn't say much about the conversation with King Charles. I was really curious. I wouldn't have been mad if he did, but it was really nice the way he answered those questions. He is consistently giving them grace. It's just in him. I think he's just got a strong sense of character, because they take every opportunity to make digs at him and feed stories to the tabloids. Oh, they're not going because Harry's supposed to be there, or are they going to face off at the funeral? And they do all that stuff, and they keep playing with the tabloids to make it seem like there's this big feud, when really it just seems like there's silent indifference. Like, I don't fool with them folks. And it happens to be, that happens to just be the status of it. I'm glad that he's focused on his dad, and he made it clear that, moving forward, one of his priorities will be his dad. And he didn't say family or that family or my nuclear family, whatever. I'm glad he's focused on his nuclear family and his dad. I'm glad he's made it, in my opinion, it was kind of clear that he wasn't talking about William and Kate. Good. And I'm glad he didn't say anything about the rest of the family, which would include Camilla. At this point, I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed. But anyway, I also, I've talked about this before. As long as Harry is, whatever he does, I'm going to support, because that's his family. It's none of my business. And as a fan of his and Meghan's, whatever they choose to do, I support people. I don't believe in arguing with people about what they do with their family. I think that's extremely inappropriate. I think it's an overstep, and it's inconsiderate, because I wouldn't want nobody coming in my house telling me what to do with my own family. Nope. Nobody knows you like your family, and no one else knows your family like you. So don't listen to people. If you feel like you want to make up with them, go ahead. If you feel like you've had enough, go ahead. But as far as Charles, I don't think he's a redeemable person, but I do think he can make himself tolerable. And I hope he does his best to make himself tolerable to Prince Harry, so that whatever Prince Harry needs out of that relationship, he is more than capable of achieving. But I don't know that I would be able to lay down with somebody who has been awful to my kids. And so every time I think about their riff, which I try not to, but anytime their riff comes up, the only thing I can ever get back to is like, how does Charles look at that lady and see any kind of attraction? One, just that on its own. But then how do you see any attraction to someone who's harmed your kids? How is that not immediate ick? How is that not like immediate, like, ugh, like you've tried to harm my child? I remember I was going on dates with someone years ago and I was telling him, he asked me, could he take me out again on like a fourth date or something? And I was like, oh no, my niece has a softball game, so I'm going to be going to her game. And he was like, that's not your child though. The rage that ran up my spine. The rage that shot up my spine, because how dare you? I never talked to that gentleman again. Because no, that little bit irritated me. So I can't imagine someone intentionally dropping stories about my kids to tabloids and mistreating my kids and me just being fine with it. He's cut very different. It's almost like because he was unhappy with his childhood, he almost feels like it's his duty to inflict the same kind of harm on his kids, because if I survived it, why can't you? Some people don't want justice. Some people don't want retribution. They just want their turn. And that's, the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that some people do not want to upend toxic cycles. They just can't wait for their turn to be at the top of it. And I stay away from folks like that. No gracias. Okay, I'm going to get to y'all's comments. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, I have to check out the interview he did with The Guardian. Yes, it's really good. It's linked in the description box below if you want to read it directly, which I highly recommend so it can get engagement. But we're also about to go over it as well in just a second. Hi, Colette McCullough. Colette McCullough says, is it true he wants to see his grandbabies? You know what? That actually wasn't discussed in the article with Prince Harry, but I wouldn't be surprised. If anything, that would make a lot more sense why they're at least trying to be amicable. Because it is nice to have grandparents, but it's nice to have safe grandparents that it's safe to be around. Prince Harry has a heart of steel an unbreakable heart in order to tolerate that ban after pulling his security, knowing he had a child. I just can't imagine, but I'm glad that they're doing what works best for them. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, yeah, I would be giving him and people in that family the side eye if I were Prince Harry. But like you, I'm going to support him and Meghan. Same. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I can't tell people what to feel and what to do. But what I can do is say, I got your back. I got your back, because I also recognize that I'm coming from a biased place. I have had 30 plus years of trying to remedy family issues until finally I said, you know what? This is taking up too much of my energy. I would get a lot more out of just building new bonds with other family members and making new friends and building my own little network than trying to keep reviving dead things. But that took me 30 some odd years to do. And it took a lot of examples of seeing the same thing over and over to accept it. And so I can imagine that with him having cancer and possibly the time winding down, that might be an indicator that Charles don't have long for Harry to suddenly see the value in being in his life a little bit more. But I don't know. I don't want to get a rumor started. I'm just saying one might assume that there might have been a bad news coming down the pipeline, or he might just say it's time for this. I don't know. But I'll pray for them and their children. And I hope that they are always in a safe environment and in good company. And I don't doubt for a second that Prince Harry is going to be eyes wide anytime they're around those people. I don't think they're going to be able to get anything over on him at this point. He has seen them for who they are. Shame on those people. Okay, let me stop being messy. We're going to get into the interview. This was actually one of my favorite interviews from Prince Harry. This was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed this interview. It was succinct. It showed a little bit of his fun side. He did talk about his bony behind, which had me laughing. I said, Prince Harry will tell you anything you want to know, because that cracked me up. As a matter of fact, for his birthday, when I went back and listened to the Todger Tale segment in Spare, I didn't realize he went into all of that. I don't remember. It's been so long since we recapped it, but I don't remember him going into all the detail about being circumcised and all. I was like, this man got that pen and it caught on fire. Do you hear me? And honestly, anybody he mentioned in the book, they have no grounds to be mad about what he said, because if that man will tell his own business to that extent, you really can't be mad about what he said about you. Because he just put it all out there. I said, oh, okay, well, I would say thanks for telling us. I don't I don't know that we needed to know, but it did illustrate the point of the story, which was the point. But that Todger's Tale story is still one of the best things I've ever read in a memoir. That cracks me up every time. Anyway, much love to all of them. This was a really good interview. Definitely one of my favorites. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys read it before today, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below or in the live chat. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. And what did y'all think about the interviewer? What did y'all think about his questions? Let me know. Finally, we are at the Guardian interview. I have seen so many people discussing this interview. I've seen so many quotes, and I am going to be reading it for the first time here so that we can discuss it. Once again, this article is in The Guardian, written by Nick Hopkins, and photographs are by David Levine, titled, "My Conscience is Clear, Prince Harry on Ukraine, His Family, and the Media." Exclusive. The Duke talks about the cost of war, his portrayal in the press, and boxing as The Guardian joins him on a visit to Kyiv. It's about midnight. It's raining. A small group is huddled around a lonely roadside cafe somewhere near the border between Poland and Ukraine, getting wet in the drizzle, sharing cartons of chips and bottles of beer. One of the bedraggled men wonders out loud why on earth the owner of the cafe would choose to close now, when surely this must have been the busiest it has ever been, stuck out here in the middle of nowhere with a captive and hungry audience. Everyone laughs. It turns out Prince Harry can be quite funny. Not y'all calling him bedraggled, you better watch your mouth. It helps to keep things jolly as the security detail work out how to ferry everyone from here to the train that will take them on a secretly planned trip to Kyiv. The aim of the visit is to promote the work of the Duke of Sussex's Invictus Games Foundation and to celebrate the recovery and rehabilitation of the thousands of veterans there who have suffered life-changing injuries since the war with Russia began 3 years ago. Because of the sheer numbers of wounded, Invictus has become increasingly well known in Ukraine, and Prince Harry, somewhat surprisingly, has achieved cult hero status. I have to pause there and say I'm actually not surprised by that at all. It makes perfect sense. In addition to Prince Harry being the patron and founder of Invictus and Invictus Games Foundation being so heavily involved in everything that's going on in Ukraine and having such a presence there, I'm not surprised that he's well known. Obviously, he's Prince Harry. They know who he is. But I think what's maybe gotten him to cult hero status is more to do with what happened right before the Invictus Games in The Hague, I believe. So when Russia first invaded Ukraine, it was right before the Invictus Games in The Hague. And at that time, there were several key members of the Invictus Games Foundation, but including Prince Harry and some competitors that were doing global press. And when Russia first invaded Ukraine, they were using those opportunities to talk about it. When they were talking about the Invictus Games and the Invictus Games Foundation, using these national and international platforms to discuss the games, they made it a point to discuss what was happening in Ukraine as well. There were also several members of several competitors who were supposed to compete in the Hague Games, but they weren't because they were taken captive. More notably, Yulia, whose story was discussed on Heart of Invictus, and we broke that down in that episode. However, at that time, Prince Harry really used his own personal platform, but also the platform provided to him while promoting the Invictus Games to talk about Ukraine, to talk about Yulia, and to really shine a global spotlight. At that time, as always, there was so much going on in the news. There was so much going on globally. And I hate to say this, but so much of international news is not afforded to us here in the US. Our news is heavily doctored. And so there are so many things that we only find out if we search for it or go look on social media. So having people like Prince Harry and everyone else that joined in that to promote what was going on, to promote the Invictus Games, but to also highlight what was going on in Ukraine, it kept the global attention on Ukraine in a way that probably would not have happened. And that was imperative so that things didn't get forgotten, so that things weren't brushed over. Very heinous things that were happening were seen by the world. In some cases, in most cases, that wouldn't have been the case. So I think that is probably what has helped Prince Harry to really shine, or to really shine in Ukraine, or not be, excuse me, to really shine in Ukraine, but also to kind of show the man he is. So that's probably why he has that status there. I know I would absolutely appreciate that if I was there. The Guardian accompanies him on the journey to the capital, something of a gamble for both sides, as Prince Harry noted. He is suspicious of the media, and The Guardian has long been critical of the monarchy. This I actually agree with. I actually think The Guardian, as well as every other media outlet, should absolutely be critical of any organization or institution that is in a position of power. You should be, because that's what holds them accountable. I think where The Guardian has lost me is because I used to read The Guardian articles quite often. However, I noticed that their opinion pieces started to veer from being sheer opinions and more so became hit pieces against Harry and Meghan. Now, it is no one's job to police how anyone else feels about Harry and Meghan. You are welcome to have whatever opinion, no matter how wrong or right it is or what it's based on. That is your business. It says a lot about you, but that is your business. However, that opinion has to be based on fact if you're going to publish it on a media platform. And The Guardian was publishing opinion pieces that were also peddling lies and inaccuracies. And I emailed them every time I came across them, because that is very irresponsible to do. Some of the opinion pieces even had objective or unbiased headlines, and then you'd get into the article and it was an absolute slam job against Harry or Meghan. And again, it's not my job to police an opinion, but if you are going to publish someone's opinion, you absolutely should be fact checking the data that they put in that article that they're basing that opinion on. And The Guardian failed at that many times. And it is a touchy, it's a touchy line to cross or to bear, because this is an opinion and it's almost like you can't police someone's opinion, nor can you police their free speech. But if they're going to cite data, if they're going to cite events, if they're going to cite occurrences that this opinion is based on, they should absolutely do so with integrity, and they should absolutely be fact checked. And so many of the opinion pieces were not fact checked, and they just became all out diary entries of why I hate Harry, why I hate Meghan. And it got to the point where I'd emailed them so many times that I said, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time and free labor and help your publication if you're not going to do anything to change this. I'm just going to simply stop donating, considering every time I log in, you're begging for money, and I put a little something in your pocketbook every time I read your articles. I'm going to stop, because this is irresponsible, and you're no better than the publications you claim to be better than because you're independently run. No gracias. So yeah, The Guardian should be critical of every institution in positions of power, but the way they have been writing opinion pieces about Harry and Meghan, not all of them are like that, but there were so many, and I kept coming across them so much that I just said, it's easier for me to just go over to Feminagra, where I know things are going to be legitimate. And over the next 36 hours, we learn a lot, big and small, about this complex, conflicted man. He doesn't like posing for staged photographs, and he doesn't like cycling. Quote, I have a bony ass. Harry. He likes to box to relieve his frustration. Hitting the hell out of a bag, he says, helps him to decompress. Now, Prince Harry, if you get tired of hitting a bag, I have a couple of names. I've been keeping a list. If you ever want to, knock somebody in the face, I have a whole list of people I'm sure nobody would mind. Now, I don't think they're very loved, which is why they act like that and they say those things about you. So I suggest a few people, Piers Morgan, that you could punch in the face. Anyway, let's continue. In private, he is very informal, padding around in his socks on the train to and from Kyiv and making dad jokes. In public, he has a confident voice and an easy charm with strangers, but on his own, he is softly spoken and asks questions about people and about politics. He has views, I would imagine. He is not, he says, the unhappy man some of the press like to portray him as. But yes, he wants to spend more time in the UK. I don't doubt that at all. Does he regret putting his side of the story in the very public way that he has? No, he doesn't. My conscience is clear. Good. I'm glad. He shouldn't feel any kind of way. Imagine someone asking you, do you feel a way about correcting lies about you? Excuse you? You should ask those people who lied on him, do they feel any kind of way having lied on him? He talks a little about his mother, Princess Diana, and his father too. If Invictus is his professional priority, it seems clear his father is a personal one. But all that comes out on the way back to the UK. What is happening in Ukraine is his immediate concern, and for good reason. These statistics are shocking, and they are on the rise. The war in Ukraine has left at least 130,000 people with life-changing injuries, many of them double and triple amputees or with disfigured faces. My goodness. With no sign of the conflict ending, the Ukrainian government has put using sport as a way to help the recovery and rehabilitation of these veterans at the heart of a national policy. And the country's Prime Minister, Yulia Svendenko, has turned to Invictus for inspiration and help. Ukrainians themselves have embraced the whole concept. The men and women who have taken part in the biennial Invictus Games have become national heroes in front page news. Good. Oh, I love to hear that. But these competitions only involve small numbers, and the need is vast. So Invictus has been devising programs to help veterans all over the country get access to sports facilities. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. At a reception on Friday morning, the Invictus Games Foundation team are guests at the National Museum of the History of Ukraine in the Second World War, where they meet ministers and dozens of the recovering wounded. That's beautiful that they're helping so many people. Quote, sports recovery and rehabilitation did not exist in Ukraine before Invictus. Ruslan Prudhoko, the Deputy Minister for Veterans Affairs, tells The Guardian. Quote, now we are creating a whole system with different kinds of training and preparing teams in all kinds of sports. And it's here that Prince Harry's popularity among Ukrainians becomes very clear. The injured want to talk to him. The mothers and fathers of the wounded and dead want to shake his hand or hug him. He is cheered and clapped at every turn, as are his colleagues. Oh, that's beautiful. He absolutely deserves it. Quote, it's amazing. We never expected this level of recognition, says Olga Rudneva, the founder and CEO of the Superhumans Trauma Center in Lviv, which has worked closely with Invictus in Ukraine. Ordinary people know who he is. We honestly didn't know he had become such a celebrity. I mean, I think that's surprising that you didn't think that. I think Prince Harry coming here is a symbol of victory and power. Oh, it absolutely is. People look at him and his military experience and they see he is not afraid to come to Ukraine. It is so important that he came. Absolutely. Do y'all remember when I said Harry and Meghan do public figuring right? This is what I mean. Look at how inspired these people are after having encountered him. And also the fact that she said, he's not afraid to come to Ukraine. That is a bad signal. More people should be coming to Ukraine. More people should see what's happening there firsthand. People who have the means and the platform to spread the word should absolutely be doing so, especially those with any kind of military affiliation. I absolutely agree. For this and for the other causes he is passionate about, Prince Harry accepts his front and center role and does it willingly. Encouraging those who have been seriously injured to find a purpose outside the military is one of his messages. Quote, I would say that I have been fortunate, he says. The one thing that people miss when they hang up their uniform is purpose. Losing a sense of community and being part of a team, and of course, the camaraderie and adrenaline. But at the heart of it is your job. Your role is serving a purpose larger than yourself. His work for Invictus, he says, has given him that after his military career. It saved me. Changing attitudes across society about disabled people is another core message. Quote, seeing people with prosthetics and life-changing injuries is going to be the norm in Ukraine for the coming decades, he tells The Guardian. Nobody should feel embarrassed or ashamed about their disabilities. It's about flipping from sympathy to admiration and respect. Such is the need for men and women to fight the war. Some of the wounded have even ended up back in the military. A lot of participants in the Invictus Games go back to active service, says Helen D'Oyley, the Invictus Games founder's chief growth officer. Ukraine has become our key strategic priority because of the need there is here. Later in the day, the team stops at Maidan Square in the heart of Kyiv, where an unofficial memorial to the dead has sprung up. It is a moving and ever-growing field of photos of the dead, flags, messages, and flowers. Wow. Prince Harry wanted to lay a wreath, but as the crowds grow around him, he steps into the thick of the memorial to be on his own. Oh. Quote, I wanted to find a spot to lay the wreath in peace away from everyone. My God, it's like a maze in there. I didn't appreciate how far back it went. Honestly, it's one of the saddest things I have ever seen. Yeah, that's sad. That's really devastating. Look at all of that. That's insane. And it's even covering some of the photograph. Goodness gracious. But also one of the most beautiful. The war, he suggests, could and should have been avoided. Absolutely. It is also unnecessary. See, this is what I appreciate too about Prince Harry being free. Because, well, he wasn't, I say that like he was in jail or something, but away from the royal family because, you know, they like to have this apolitical stance. Someone with military experience, someone who understands war in a way that most people don't, who've actually seen war. He's done 2 tours in Afghanistan, and he was supposed to do a tour in Iraq, but that one got canceled when his location was dropped by a newspaper or by a reporter. But anyway, So he essentially was supposed to do 3 tours in Afghanistan, or 3 tours during the war, but he only did 2 in Afghanistan. And he saw war up close. He saw what it actually is. He's been working with these people for over a decade now. So he gets what's happening. His opinion is valuable. Not only is he a royal, and so he understands things on that level in a way that most people don't, but he's actually seen war up close in front. He's he's fought alongside these people. And so he fully understands what's happening, and his opinion is valuable. This is why I actually think the royal family, but also other public figures, maintaining an apolitical stance is actually kind of harmful, because your voice is needed. To be quiet is to be on the side of the wrongdoer, in my opinion. So I love that Prince Harry is calling it out and saying it like it is, as he should. After this visit, the prince disappears. His car heads off away from the convoy for about an hour, and when he returns to the group, he is coy and tight-lipped. I mean, I'm sure that was a lot to take in. That memorial was huge. I'm sure that was a lot to take in. The suspicion is that he has gone to meet Vladimir Zelensky, but neither he nor the president wants to admit it. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Zelensky is a champion of the Invictus Games and had made it known he wanted to meet the prince. The British government had made it known to Zelensky it would rather he did not. That was the chat in diplomatic circles, at least. You know, I really like Vladimir Zelensky. If they did sit down, I could absolutely see that being a very positive meeting, and I hope they had the opportunity to sit down and chat. I don't see why they wouldn't. The theory was that giving the rebel royal a platform might not be smart politics on a day that Britain's new foreign secretary, Yvette Cooper, was also in town. Oh, who cares? But only one Briton is making any headlines in Ukraine on Friday. Boom, exactly. So, like, at the end of the day, you can feel how you feel, but I mean, look who's actually making the headlines. And feeling, because they're trying to create a narrative about you and your family. They're intentionally misreading everything you do and misunderstanding everything you say. They're doing so to keep feeding the beast who buys their papers, which is extremists and psychopaths and racists and misogynists. You know the lot. I think parts of the British press, I've already read that part. Here we go. I think parts of the British press want to believe that I am miserable, but I'm not. I am very happy with who I am, and I like the life that I live. And you deserve it, Prince Harry. If he hasn't always seemed cheerful, then that is hardly surprising, given what he has been going through, he says. I have certainly had to deal with some very stressful events over the last 4 years. There has been the uncertainty and stress of the litigation and finding out certain things that have really, really hurt. But he believes there is a disconnect between what is written about him by some commentators and what most other people think. I agree. I agree with that 100%. I've said that before, and I've gotten flack for it before. The papers really want you to think, or should I just say the media, the tabloid media really want people to think that Harry and Meghan are deeply disliked, and they are not. They are not. They are very much loved globally. There are extremists. There are very real threats. There are very real haters. There are very real people who have been using their positions in the media to abuse them and have been carrying out the will of the royal family. That is all true. But that is not the majority. And every time I say that, I get people in my comments who are saying, you don't think what happened to Harry and Meghan is real? They have gone through so much. And I'm like, 2 things can be true at once. They have been dealing with, and I don't even say, I think dealing with is understatement. They have been at the foot of so much abuse by several parties. That is true. But as far as global opinion, they are very much loved. People who do not benefit from their pain and their demise and all the things that people have been trying to, to happen to befall them. The people who are actually just watching, who can think critically, who have common sense, love Harry and Meghan. It's the extremists, it's the racists, it's the misogynists, it's the people who are carrying out the will of the royal family and the royal family themselves who have a problem with Harry and Meghan being who they are. And those people are in a small minority. They happen to be a small minority with a lot of power. They happen to be a small minority who have the will of extremists to be concerned about and who can literally sick extremists on them, which they have. That is true. So for me to say globally, the public love Harry and Meghan, that doesn't mean they haven't dealt with anything. And it certainly doesn't mean they haven't faced threats. That's not the same thing. I think when people do that, I think they're intentionally being obtuse so they can argue. And so I'm going to stop giving that kind of stuff attention. If you're not adept and can keep up with the conversation and recognize the nuance, and I don't really think this is the place for you. But no offense to anyone, but I'm just saying, if you're looking for a fight, this is certainly not the place. But when I say that they are loved globally, they absolutely are. Look at how the crowds draw. Look at how people support them. Look at how people fall at their feet. Look at how many people who have actually met them talk about how warm they feel when they've met them, how supported they feel, how when people talk to Meghan, how they say they feel like they're the only person in the room. Like, she's so good at like connecting with people on that level. They are very much loved. And yes, there are certain people in the media who benefit in one way or the other from bringing harm to them or saying things about them. But anybody with a brain likes Harry and Meghan. I'll leave that there. Quote, I feel a lot of support from the British public, even now when I feel like I have been destroyed by certain members of the British press. It serves them to think that the British public feels the same way about me as they do. Bingo. But I don't feel that, and I don't see that. For as long as I have known, certain elements of the British press have tried to speak on behalf of the nation. I think they are out of touch with the nation on lots of things. Not you reading them down, and he is not lying one bit. He is 100% correct about that. They hope to bring the public with them, but I think the British public can speak and think for themselves. I know that's right. Would he like to spend more time in the UK? To bring his children one day, despite the issues over his security arrangements? Quote, yes, I would. This week has definitely brought that closer. Prince Harry won't talk about his father, but he seems to suggest he wants and needs to see his father more often. Over the coming year, he says, the focus really has to be on my dad. That's fair. Prince Harry mentions his wife, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, only once by name, a reference to something she told him about how telling the truth is the most efficient way to live. It absolutely is. It's the only way to live with a clear conscience, and living with a clear conscience is the only way to live peacefully. Quote, she said, just stick to the truth. It is a thing I always fall back on, always. And if you think like that, who would be stupid enough to lie? It takes up too much time and effort. Which brings him to the very public things he has said about his life, the interviews, the TV series, and the book he wrote, Spare. Quote, I know that speaking out annoys some people and it goes against the narrative. The book? It was a series of corrections to stories already out there. One point of view had been put out and it needed to be corrected. He adds, quote, I don't believe that I aired my dirty laundry in the public. It was a difficult message, but I did it in the best way possible. My conscience is clear. Being called stubborn slightly rankles with him. It's not stubbornness, it's having principles. I want that on a shirt because that's 100% correct. That is 100% correct. People love to demonize those with values and principles because they won't go for the same nonsense. When you have nothing to hide, there's nothing you can use to blackmail them into silence. Good for Prince Harry. It seems he does not want to prolong any legal battles. Who would? He does not ever expect to get positive coverage from some quarters. A ceasefire is perhaps the best he can hope for. It's not about revenge. It's about accountability, he says. If this mic wasn't so close, I would clap my hands, but I don't want to put that in y'all's ears. But yes, 100% accountability. Nor does he want to prolong any divisions with his family. But in life, he says, you cannot have reconciliation before you have truth. Abso-freaking-lutely. By the end of the visit, he has so many bags of presents to take home, including a dagger hidden inside an ornate walking stick. They take up most of the free space in the back of the private jet that returns him to the UK. He puts it down to the fact he serves 10 years in the army, and the way Ukrainians have adopted the ideas of the Invictus Foundation. He is told that Rudneva thought part of the reason people liked him was because he is quite Ukrainian in his attitude to life. He does his own thing in his own way. Quote, you know who else did that, says the prince? My mom. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, I'm back. So that was a really in-depth interview. I really enjoyed it. It got cut off in the middle a little bit, but we didn't miss much. But if you want to actually read the interview for yourself, I highly recommend. It's linked in the description box below. But that was a really good interview. It sounded like Prince Harry not only appreciated his time in Ukraine, but I'm glad that he was able to really spend some time in that memorial. And I am curious as to whether or not he met with Vladimir Zelensky. Probably, who knows? But anyway, I'm glad that he was able to have that experience and share that. And through his interview, a lot of people are now back talking about Ukraine, are now back talking about everything that's happening with Russia. Because again, it is so freaking easy for our news cycle to just get dominated by nonsense. Here in America, our news cycle has been dominated by some nonsense. I won't even bring it up because I don't want to keep it going. But it's so easy for I won't say important things, but yeah, the most important things to get drowned out if they're not happening right here on American soil over here. It's just how our news works. So we don't get a lot of global news. So I'm glad that Prince Harry is keeping that at the forefront and continuing to share what's happening and still happening. But the increased number of people who have experienced life-changing injuries, God, that's terrible. That's awful. I am happy that the Invictus is such a prominent organization in Ukraine and that there are resources in Ukraine for those people. But it just seems like that number is continuing to go up and up and up. And it's really sad. And I even saw where there's now an increased number of people who are injured re-enlisting, and people who have left the military re-enlisting because of everything that's going on, people who are injured or older and things like that. So when I read that, I was just like, my goodness, when will it end? When will it end? But I'm so glad that Prince Harry is using his voice and he's not pulling that apolitical crap. He is absolutely saying what he feels and what he thinks, and I'm glad that he's doing so and putting it on a global stage. Good for him. What else about the interview? I enjoyed the whole thing. I enjoyed the candid moments. I thought those were very funny. He would just drop a random comment like he can't ride bikes, or he doesn't like to ride bikes because his butt is phony. I said, why would you share that? But immediately, I said it in the segment, but when he said that, I immediately thought of King of the Hill when his little butt was so flat he couldn't sit up on the lawnmower. That is one of my favorite episodes. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it was really nice to hear about things going well with King Charles, and that he was going to try and spend more time in the UK, and hopefully from this angle with him and Charles somewhat coming to terms. It seems like, now I can't assume, I won't assume, but it almost seems like when William is not at play, they have a much easier time getting along. It seems like when William is not part of the equation, their communication just seems like it's much better. But I could be reading that incorrectly. It just seems like, when that stumbling block is not present, y'all have no problem communicating. Just like when King Charles found out he had cancer and Prince Harry immediately went to see him, who wasn't there. Interesting. Hi, Moving in Silence. Moving in Silence says, yes, our cable news channels can only focus on one topic at a time. Shameful. Yep. I remember being younger, and my parents used to keep one of the TVs on CNN all the time. And so you could just go and you would see the banner and it would always be giving you news. But maybe it's just me, but I remember the news being really, really broad on CNN when I was younger. I remember seeing things from all over the world. And now I guess it's just so much is going on in America. Do we even have the time to talk about anything? I mean, we are constantly showing out over here. It's always some nonsense. Goodness, or as my grandma would say, it is always some bullshit with you. Like, that is how it feels right now. I mean, we have that orange clown in office and it's just nothing but destruction and nonsense ever since. I mean, goodness gracious. We might need to be rescued here soon. Who knows? Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, William and Camilla, let's not leave her out of Harry not talking to his daddy. Oh, yeah. Well, I mentioned her earlier. I said, I just can't see how, not Harry, how Charles can tolerate someone coming between him and his kids, but also mistreating his kids. I just don't see how that is something that you could sit with, how you could tolerate that. I wouldn't be able to. And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. He might have got her together backwards, forward, left, and right. I don't know. He might have, but I just don't see it, especially since that woman been running that man for decades. But absolutely, Camilla is part of the equation. And so is William. And the fact that y'all call William Camilla's son is apt. That is an apt description because they are definitely one and the same. He can act like he don't like her all day long, but they are absolutely just alike. They are just alike. She mistreated his mother in life, and he sat there and gaslit his mother in death. They are one and the same, and they both targeted Harry because they saw that same Diana spirit in Harry. You cannot convince me otherwise. William is jealous, and so is Camilla. I haven't seen a lot from her lately. I don't really keep up with her either, but ever since she took her shoes off, was it Australia when she took her shoes off and everybody was so disgusted with her? I'm everybody. She really don't be making waves anymore. People are just tired of her. And I think she may have gotten the hint. The public does not like her. I don't know who has lied to her. People tolerate her. But yeah, the public doesn't like her. She's even less likable than Kate. Can you imagine? How is that even possible? But anyway, they're all a bunch of rancid people. For Harry to be in contact with anybody, I'm glad it's just Charles. And I hate to say this, I'm gonna support him either way, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope it just stays there. I hope it just stays there. I hope he don't get in contact with any of the rest of them. They can't do enough good to make up for what they did. And that's why I need to go heal because I have no business being that bitter, but I'm just like, I don't know. I'm one of those people who feel like people can change, but they don't. It's possible, but most people don't. People have to be incentivized to change. They have to want to. People have to want to do right by you. It's kind of like when I was in my early 20s, the things I would tolerate, I can't even imagine if those things even crossed my path at 38 years old. And I follow a bunch of little young 20-year-olds who are figuring out life on TikTok, and I send them little encouragement and stuff like that. Anytime I come across them, I'll just send them some encouragement and say little nice things because I know how that time in my life could be. And there was one young lady talking about some stuff that her boyfriend was doing. And she was like, but loyalty is really big for both of us. So I'm going to sit with him through this. And I'm going to pray with him about this. And we're going to go back to church together and we're going to figure it out. And I was watching that and I was like, I'm going to pray for for God to cover her and for someone who she trusts to get in her ear and say, girl, at 21 years old, you can pray all day, but that man, if he's already cheating, he's not going to stop. You may as well save your little pretty self some time and go on about your business. But most people just don't change. If you want to, you will. But I say that to say, it seems like something has shifted with Charles. I can't say what, obviously, but it seems like something has shifted to put them back in contact. And it seems like it's going well, especially at this time, because Charles was diagnosed with cancer well over a year ago. And they spoke at that time. So for him to pull out a visit right now, I'm just really curious about what shifted, but it isn't my business. But I'm still going to be curious. But I do want to know what it was. If we ever found that out, that would be wonderful. But whatever shifted, I'm happy that it did. But it clearly only shifted with Charles. It didn't shift with any of the other ones. And that's probably for the best. That is probably for the best. It seems like whatever is moving in a good direction. And I hope they keep it that way. I don't know that I would ever be able to trust anybody in my family if they had pulled the crap that the royal family pulled with Harry and Meghan, but especially William and Kate, particularly William. Charles, I've always seen him as a little touched, and I mean that in the most polite way possible. I've always seen like something is not all the way there with him. He has a lot of baggage and a lot of childhood trauma, a lot. I didn't realize it until I started reading people's recaps of his book. And I didn't know he went through all that, but it's no excuse. It's no excuse. We all have the power to heal and we all have access to resources. He, more than most, he needs to go heal. But the point I'm making is for William to double cross Harry, it just feels like it's a cut above because they went through it together. So if anybody understands what Harry is going through, it should be William. So he should be the last person who would be inclined to hurt him. And also it just seems like he's carrying such a heavy weight against Harry for some reason. I've always felt like he was jealous, and then that was obviously confirmed. I've always felt like he had anger issues, which everybody says, but it does seem like there's just something particularly infuriating to him about Harry. And I've always felt like, and I don't want to speak out of turn, I've just always felt like it had to do with his unrequited attraction to Harry's wife, and that being the last straw of things that he can't have what I can't have. How dare he have, no offense to Kate, this ain't got shit to do with her, but how dare he have the woman of his dreams? He didn't have to settle. He didn't have to wait a decade to decide if this is who he wanted to be with, and then damn near pass out the night before his wedding because he was so drunk because he had bad nerves because he didn't really want to go. Either way, Harry was happy, galloped down that aisle and was waiting for Meghan and couldn't take his eyes off of her and couldn't believe that she was the woman he got to marry. And I think he wasn't the only one with that sentiment. And I think that's where that's really coming from, because that kind of rage just doesn't make sense. And for people to be like, oh, well, brothers fight. Brothers argue and fight, sure. But my God, to wage war on each other. And honestly, when Harry was talking about punching that body bag, boxing is his way of like, relaxing and exercising and all that stuff and letting off steam. I was like, see, William, I said it then and I'm saying it again. You better be glad that man has done the healing work and shown some restraint because he probably narrowly escaped some harm. Hi, Evie Lynn 35. Evie Lynn says, I've seen posts that Charles and Camilla are separated and going through a divorce. What? I don't keep up with them. Now you have told me something. I'm going to do my Googles and research because now I'm curious. But do y'all think they will really go for it? Do you think they will really go through a divorce? I don't know if he would go through another divorce other than I think he would be secretly separated. I would really like for them to address Simon Durante Day. That's what I really want. I don't want them to do another thing until they address Simon Durante Day. I want them to take that DNA test and go on about their business. I want them to put that man, I want them to put his qualms to rest or confirm what he's been saying. The only thing that's in the back of my mind, because at first when I read about Simon Durante Day, he's the gentleman who said that on his grandmother's deathbed, she confessed to him that his mom had actually his mom had brought him back to live with them because she worked in the palace and he was actually the son of Charles and Camilla. Is that how it went? And when you look at him, now when I first read that, I was like, oh, come on. But then when I started seeing pictures of him next to Charles, he looks more like Charles than William does. He looks more like Charles than Harry. But I mean, that's not saying much. Harry looks more like his grandfather. Thank God. But he looks just like Charles. When I saw the photos of them side by side, I was just like, whoa. But I mean, that could be a coincidence. I've seen people who look like me and we weren't related, but goodness, I mean, the resemblance is uncanny. The only thing I can think of, the reason they have let this go on for so long is that man must have a real claim. I don't know. But either way, Charles and Camilla needs to come on out and either dispel those rumors or prove them wrong or accept their fate. Whatever they do, I'm really curious. But I'm going to look that up. Thank you for telling me because I had no idea. I did hear that they slept in separate rooms. I heard that a couple of years ago, and I thought that was because he snored or something. But isn't that always the reason? That's always the reason they give. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, it's all of the above for William. Yep. All of the things. All of the things. He just seems like such a hothead. And to think he started off, he could have been something great. He really could have been something special. I guess that father's influence was just too much. He succumbed to it. He's just like his damn daddy. Hi, Sean Jones. Sean Jones says he's more upset at the lack of control he no longer has over Harry, highlighted by his statements about Harry's financial gains. Jealous. It's like every time he's finished being jealous about one thing, Harry does something else. He gets another win, and here we go again. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right about this. But at the end of the day, these are things you should be celebrating with your siblings. These are things I would be so excited if my sibling was like in love and married and had this wonderful life and got to surf and had all this money and was doing good by the world. But I think that's where we're different. You can't beat me cheering for my siblings. I want my siblings to have everything and then some, and then some. So that's so foreign to me. Jealousy within siblings, that's usually an indicator that's usually can be drummed up to something with the parents, just being real, pitting them against each other. But also, once you're old enough to know better, then you need to do better. We can understand its origins without continuing to play into it. I don't understand why he's continuing to keep this going, other than the jealousy thing. That's the only thing I can think of. Hi, Evie Lynn. Evie Lynn said, it has been several different articles, mostly trash tabloids. Now, I'll say this. Sometimes when it comes to the rest of the royals, sometimes those trashy tabloids, they be right on the money. I remember a couple of years ago, like 2017 or 2018, I believe it was. I was living in Orlando and all of these random tabloids started reporting that Will and Jada were separated. And it was going on for months. And finally, they released a statement and basically jumped it up to just drama and just like, oh, we're just this week's hot topic. They do this. They looking for some stories. They just made this up. We're not separated. We're not divorced. We're doing as well as we always have been. Cut to damn near 10 years later, they were separated. and had been since 2016. So like, sometimes those little tabloids, they know what they're talking about. I don't know. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. It's good to see you. Anyway, this is a really good article. If you have not had an opportunity to read the article, it's in The Guardian. It's free. It's not behind a paywall, thankfully. So I highly recommend reading the article and giving them the clicks, especially positive articles about Harry and Meghan. I always try to make sure to read positive articles and share them so that advertisers know, so that publications know this is the stuff we want to read. We don't want to see the nonsense. I will be on the lookout. Oh, excuse me. I will be on the lookout for more information regarding this alleged separation. I'm going to be honest. If that was true, I want to go back to the comments so that you guys know what I'm talking about. Here we go. If that turned out to be true, then this sudden shift would make a lot of sense. But I don't know. It could just be everybody's tired at this point and everybody has decided to lay down their gauntlets. Well, Harry never had a gauntlet. He was just like, look what they're doing. They have their gauntlets at me. Like, he was just honest about what was happening to him. But maybe everybody just decided to come back to the table and start again. I'm surprised that didn't happen directly after Queen Elizabeth passing, though. The way they treated Meghan at that wedding, that wasn't going to happen. They were so nasty to that lady at that wedding. Anyway, I'm glad that whatever is happening in a way that makes Prince Harry happy, and that's all that matters. Anyway, those are my updates. Prince Harry had a wonderful trip in the UK, had a wonderful trip in I keep saying the Ukraine. I don't know why I do that. He had a wonderful trip in Ukraine. I can't wait to see more about his return, and hopefully we get some birthday snaps from how they celebrated his birthday. It's really great that Meghan has As Ever and her account, because we did find out that he had returned through the As Ever account, and then we saw his birthday post on hers. I'm like, I love that she is using social media now. This is so much fun. But anyway, those are all of my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. We have another live stream on Friday. We're finishing up my thoughts on With Love Meghan, but I want to bring a couple of my top moments. So we're doing several categories of my favorite. We've already done my favorite outfit, but things that I loved about different guests, my favorite moments, my favorite recipes, my favorite craft moments. So I'm kind of dissecting the show from a different lens because there was so much. I could not fit everything into the recaps. It wasn't going to be possible. So we're going to have a live stream. So be sure to bring me your opinions too. I can't wait to talk to y'all live about that on Friday. There is so much to get into with that show. My goodness. I think one of the things that I love most about With Love Meghan, no pun intended, is that it's so freaking rewatchable. You can watch those episodes several times. You're going to pick up something that you missed. You're going to learn something that you may have missed. It's just a lot to take in. It's so freaking rewatchable. I have been enjoying it. Now today, I finally filmed the second part of my taste test, which we'll be showing on Friday, as well as the wine test, as well as the shortbread cookies. I'm sharing that finally on Friday. But during the taste test, I got a little carried away with that apricot spread. What did she put in there other than pure magic? My goodness. So the way I did it, and we'll talk more about it Friday, but the way I did it is I put it on croissants. I made some croissants and I made them real flaky. And then I drizzled it on the top on a few, and then I dipped it with a few, and it was good both ways. Ooh, it was good. And then one of them I didn't eat warm. I let it cool with the drizzle on top, and it was delicious. Oh my goodness. And I don't even like room temperature croissants. I like them hot. It was delicious room temperature. My goodness. There were so many different things that I tried with that apricot spread. And now that I've kind of gotten carried away, I'm looking forward to more things that I can put it on. I did try it I put a grape in there. I just wanted to see what it would taste like with a piece of fruit. It was good. It's really, I knew it would be tasty, and my husband had gone on and on about it, but he and I don't really have the same taste. I have really enjoyed it. And I am a person who barely eats spreads. I'm just not I don't eat spreads. I also made her tartine, the one that she made for Chrissy Teigen, 10 out of 10. Now, I did not make the sourdough bread. I know my strengths and I know my limitations. I did not make the sourdough bread. But I did make the tartine with, I forgot is it I forgot the brand, but anyway, I bought the bread and I warmed it up in the oven. I took a shortcut, but it was delicious. Absolutely. Oh, EB Lynn says the orange marmalade is very good too. That's going to be next. I'm going to have to try that. Now, I'm not even one that likes a lot of citrusy things, but I'm also not a person who really eats apricots. And here we are. So I'm going to just trust her judgment. I'm going to trust her judgment. And the wine is good. Well, I got the 2024. I didn't get the 2023, but the 2024 Napa Valley Rosé, fantastic. I had it with a little shrimp pasta. It was delicious. Okay, y'all. I'm not going to talk y'all's ear off. It's getting late. Thank y'all so much for joining me for the live stream. I hope you enjoyed it. I really appreciate y'all in engaging with me this early in the day. I'm back in Central Time, so I'm still trying to get used to when my live streams make the most sense because I left Florida. But I appreciate y'all joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like the live or like the video on YouTube. Share your comments. Once the live stream is over, feel free to share your comments in the comments section. And then on Friday, we're going to finish our recap of With Love, Meghan Season 2. I'm going to be going through all of my favorites and as many categories as we can get through. There's so much to dissect about that show. It is incredible. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.